Very good. Thank you, Professor Henderson.
Thank you for having me. It's a great honor to be here. I have 3 points to make for the subcommittee today. First, monopolistic markets are associated with rising prices and restricted output, but digital advertising has in recent years demonstrated the opposite, with ads becoming cheaper and more effective. Second, ads are not stocks, and any claim that they should be regulated the way stocks are is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how securities regulation works and why it exists. Third, the divestiture portion of the act may have perverse effects on competition and innovation. Congress should carefully consider what this market would look like if this bill is passed. First, let me talk about the market for open display ads, which it's worth noting is a small part of the online ad market, which is in turn just a small part of the overall ad market, which is just an even smaller part of the overall marketing budget. Senator Klobuchar mentioned $55 billion for Google. That's a giant number. That's all of their ads, which include search and other things. The open display portion, which is what the America Act is about, is much, much smaller. I think it's about $7 billion. This market is dominated by a couple big firms, Google and Facebook. But as Senator Lee has repeatedly warned, big is not necessarily bad. We have to understand why and what harms, if any, flow from bigness. Importantly, these intermediaries are vertically integrated and operate in two-sided markets. And they're trying to optimize across that entire operation of advertisers and publishers. I understand why the Washington Post is upset that they see a 50% reduction in their ad revenues, but there's advertisers and consumers on the other side. One has to think about the net effects on all sides of that market. When you do that, you can see in the last couple of decades, just in the last 10 years, digital ad spending has grown about 20% per year on average, and prices have fallen 4% per year on average. These are consistent with a highly competitive market. And as the UK Competition Authority found, the 30% number or 70% number that Senator Klobuchar mentioned, Google's was at the industry average. The evidence needed for a massive remaking of a giant industry should be compelling and overwhelming, not based on anecdotes and hypotheticals. Let me talk about the analogy to stock markets. The logic is simple, and we just heard it from Mr. Kent. Google should be barred from acting as a broker on its own exchange, just as Goldman Sachs is prohibited from owning the exchange on which stocks are traded. But this is factually false. Goldman Sachs does not own the New York Stock Exchange, but it owns a different exchange called Sigma X. If your broker recommends you buy a company's stock and you accept their recommendation, that broker can route your stock trade to the New York Stock Exchange. They can route it to their own wholly owned exchange, Sigma X. Or, even more remarkably, they could fill your order from their own inventory. About half of stocks are traded in venues owned by stockbrokers. It's because of the lack of physical separation in stock markets that the SEC has adopted the best interest rule. That's Rule 611 of the National Market Securities Rule passed in 2005. It's worth noting that notwithstanding the fact that this has been a rule since 2005, it has required a massive bureaucracy inside of firms and in the government to try to enforce it. And yet, only 43% of trades happen at the national bid offer price, which is the best priced rule. In fact, exchanges market to their customers tools that allow them to sell at something less than the bid ask, the national best price. So invoking this in stock markets is one thing where there is one price for Google, and that price is the same for every person on planet Earth at a particular time. In contrast, in the ad markets, every ad at every second on every web page for every different person is priced differently. Ensuring that stock market trading is fair is a monumental task for regulators. Doing this for online ads is unimaginable. There's a bigger issue with the analogy. We have aggressive regulation of stocks because they are the importance of stock prices to consumers, and stock markets are the nerve center of the capitalist economy. Stocks are the largest source of savings for individual Americans, and while advertising is important, it plays nothing like the role stocks do in our society. The stock market, by the way, is also 700 times bigger than the online ad market. 700 times bigger. The last thing, and I have to close, I'm running out of time, is the net effect of this bill on competition might be really perverse. Amazon is building its own business internally. They did this and routed trades through Google. Once it got big enough, they stopped doing that because they built a rival business that was important. Walmart and Target are doing the same thing. If you make it such that once you get to a certain size, then you have basically got to get rid of that business, you're going to impede companies from trying to build their own internal improvements. I'll close there. I'll just say I like the transparency aspect of this bill, and if my vote mattered, I would vote for that. The other parts are more troubling to me. Thank you.